Hello and welcome to another episode of Fox Cricket's podcast, The Follow On. In fact, it's the season opener, and we've got a massive season to come with the Asia Cup on our doorstep. We've got the Women's World Cup not too far away. Australia's hosting India in white ball cricket in late October and early November. And then the big one, the Ashes, which should be amazing summer, followed off by women hosting India to complete a massive summer ahead. Given it's a massive summer, it's pretty good to be joined by an absolute legend of Australian cricket, Fox cricket favourite, Brett Lee, 76 tests, 221 ODIs, almost 700 wickets combined in those formats. Great to have you with us, Brett.
Thanks, Courtney. How's things, mate?
Yeah, been really good. Pleasure to get across to Lords during the Aussie winter to see the World Test Championship final. Result didn't go Australia's way, but it was quite the scene, and great to see South Africa manage to snare one. How about yourself? What's been going on with you in the off season? Has it been an off season?
Well, there's never an off season, mate. It's always work. But hey, that's what I love. I actually went to Lords as well, but for the different test, I went to watch India play England, which was an absolute cracker. 34 degrees at Lords, which sounds like an oxymoron, having a hot day in England, but super exciting and seeing two teams at the top of their game. And what a wonderful game of cricket. But yeah, there's been plenty of cricket that's been played the last 3 or 4 months. And as you mentioned, some exciting cricket coming up.
No, well, I'd love to say that it'd be nice to be able to get an ale in England at Lords during a day like that. But I suspect the beers are warm, so no joy there.
Yeah, well, it depends where you look.
Very good. Well, look, what we should do is get into it. And basically, we'll start with the Asia Cup. I'd love to get your insights on that. It's worth knowing that it starts later this week, September 10. KO Sports is showing every single game of the Asia Cup match live from the United Arab Emirates, which I believe you're pretty familiar with these days. We've got 19 games coming up. The big one before the finals is Pakistan versus India, but it shapes as a really cracking way to get into it. So all on KO Sports. You spent a lot of time in India. You've played a lot of cricket sort of through there. I'm not sure if you actually played in the United Arab Emirates during your career, but the Asia Cup. Explain to our listeners why it's so significant.
Look, I think the Asia Cup, what it brings, it's the best of the best in these conditions. So when you think about playing over here in Asia, when it's low, slow wickets that are not really conducive to fast bowling, it's the opportunity to see these teams that have grown up in this environment, hot, humid conditions. I mean, at the moment, it's late 30s already here in Dubai. It's only 10 o'clock in the morning, my local time, as we do this podcast. It's been getting up to the mid-40s every single day. So for a Westerner to come over here, you've got your work cut out. Whereas these teams, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, UAE, just to name a few, they're used to these conditions. So I think spin will play a massive role. But, as you rightly pointed out, the talk on the town right now is the 14th, India versus Pakistan. It's shaping up to be an absolute cracker.
Yeah, and we might even look into those two teams. But World Cup's a massive. I know that the Asian Games throughout Asia just a wildly watched thing, almost as widely watched as what the Olympics is. I think if you win a gold medal in some countries, you're exempt from military service. So it is massive. If you're from Australia, you just cannot discount how hard these teams will be going at each other throughout the Asia Cup.
No, look, of course, and you sort of think about both teams now. They've a couple of players have moved on. There's no Kohli, there's no Rohit Sharma, there's no Jadeja, and there's talk on the town as well that Babar Azam's not going to get an opportunity through Pakistan. There's a bit of conjecture on his strike rate. Rizwan as well might be left out. So that's what I'm hearing. That's what people are saying on the ground over here. Look, when you think about the great players that have played the game, and also too, I actually want to point out, and it's great that it's on KO as well. Like a lot of people that will be focusing in from Australia, when they talk about the Asia Cup, they always think about the 50-over format. This is the T20 format. This has only been the third occasion it'll be played over here in this format, T20 format. 2016, India won. 2022, Sri Lanka took out the title. But there's been a lot of Asia Cup series played, but more so the longer format of the game. So I'm looking forward to seeing how these young players coming through can dominate on this shorter format, because playing 50-over cricket in this heat would be pretty damn tough.
I don't doubt that at all. In fact, you can have that, and even commentating, I'm hoping you've got some air conditioning over there. But it's a new look India, isn't it? You touched on some of the players that are out. No Kohli. It's inconceivable if you've watched white ball cricket. No Sharma. No
Yep.
Jadeja. Captained by by Yadav. You've got Shubman Gill, Jasper Bumrah. They are in the team, but there's a lot of newcomers as well. What do we expect from India in the next generation of cricketers? They performed so exceptionally well against England in the Tests. We saw some newcomers there and a
Yep.
fantastic without some of the champions. They've been dominant in white ball cricket in the past. What can we expect from them in the next little while as they, I suppose, continue to evolve?
Yeah, well, with those big dogs moving away and hanging up their T20 format and looking for bigger and better things, and it all happens. We'd love all these heroes of the game that play for as long as possible, but it's not the case. But then what it does do, it opens up a lot of different doors to these younger players coming through. The captain, as you mentioned, Surya Kumar Yadav, who I think is going to be a great leader, has already shown a lot of class, has already shown, in different formats as well, how he can step up and not be overawed by the situation. Even when it comes to a bit of on-field stuff, has actually stood his ground, which I love about that. And I love that, a young captain, only in the early stage of his captaincy career, is actually, laying down the law. So he's built a nice team around him. Couple of young spinners coming in, a couple of older spinners that will play a role. But then, you think of the Hardik Pandyas of the world, that those genuine all-rounders that need to step up, that have had success in the past, but this is their time to shine now. So, it is a new look India. It's a new look with a few more people on the bus sitting in different spots. That's my best analogy or the best way to explain it. So, look, the squad hasn't changed a lot, but there will be some younger guys in a different position. One's got a captaincy next to his name that will have an opportunity to stand up and be that next generation coming through.
Pakistan's had a couple of successes in Asian games, Asian Cups through the
Yep.
year. On different ODI to T20, captained by someone Aliaga. You're right in terms of I don't think that Babar Azam will be there. In fact, I'm almost certain he won't be there. Nor will Rizwan, but they are coming in off a big win over Afghanistan in the recent Tri Series, I suppose, competition. They got up by 75 runs in their most recent outing against Afghanistan. So they come in with some form.
Yeah, look, they definitely do, and I'm sort of reading up because I haven't actually watched them as much as I've been focusing on the Indian team. Watching them live and watching obviously what they've done. But I know that through reading the stats and through reading what Pakistan have done, they are coming in as a hot contender. If you look back to Asia Cup 50 over format, I think India have won 8. I think Pakistan have won 2. Does that spill over then to what we're thinking about the T20 format? I think it definitely plays a role in these big tournaments. But the thing with Pakistan, they have to make sure that they get off to a great start, and I think that's a reason why Coach Hessen has gone. Look, I actually want some explosive power at the top. I don't want to have a guy that plays the anchor role. This is T20 cricket now. Babrazam, how good he is. Rizwan, how sort of good he is at the top. That's more of a 50 over play from what he's saying and what I'm reading. They want some young players. I don't know who's going to be at the top. I don't know who they're going to go, and they've definitely got some great options. But whichever team that they put on the park first up, and the first top 4 is the explosive top 4. They have to come out India super hard in that first 6 overs. But they've got the big left arm quick to bring it home, bowl those perfect Yorkers in Afridi.
We know the I suppose the history and the tension between the two nations. When you get to tournaments like this, it's a rarity that we see them play against each other. Does it add a level of anticipation and excitement, mindful that we just don't get to see them that often against each other?
Yeah, look, and if you ask the players, they just want to play cricket. They just want to have some fun. They're out there as athletes. They want to every opportunity to play against every nation is so important. For us, imagine saying for us we can't play against England, and I know that the circumstances are different, and I'm not in their shoes. I'm not going to even try to go down that path to what they've both been through with different countries. But if you look purely from a cricketing point of view, they just want to express themselves as athletes. So I'm really glad the Asia Cup's been put on. I'm glad that both teams have agreed to play against each other, because at the end of the day, as I keep saying, they want to go out there and there won't be any love lost when they walk in the field. But what I can promise you is off the field, they'll be shaking hands, they'll be hugging each other. The respect's there for each other, and that's all that counts about cricket.
And just one last one on the Asia Games. I suppose we've Asia Cup more to the point. Afghanistan's been giant killers in the past. We've seen them have success in World Cups and pull off a couple of big upsets. Sri Lanka, have had great success. We know that they weren't as good against Australia sort of earlier in the year, but capable of anything. And then I guess even the United Arab Emirates, who are hosting, have a team in this competition. So there'll be a lot of interest, I'm sure, locally as well as internationally.
Yeah, exactly. You absolutely nailed it there. That the big game is, of course, India v Pakistan. That's the one that everyone will want to watch. But for the people on Kaya, there are other games, as well, available. The chance to see Rashid Khan to bowl these beautiful googlies and to take one away and rip one past the off stump of a right-handed batsman. Hasaranga has been in some really good form as well from different playing nations. You got some local players here in UAE, so there's plenty to watch, and there's plenty of excitement that's going to come up.
Perfect. Now we've talked about India a bit, but post that they've got a pretty big tour of Australia in terms of white ball cricket. We've got some T20s and ODIs later in October and also early into March. I think we've got a big ODI in at the MCG. Victoria Derby Eve, which I'm sure is going to draw a big crowd before one of those prime race days in Victoria. Australia coming off, I suppose, a series on the top end against South Africa, where they had some good moments. They were also disappointed in a couple of games, but it looked just brilliant cricket through Darwin, Cairns, and also Mackay. I had a chance to talk to a lot of the guys who were involved in that last week up in Brisbane, and they loved playing in the top end. Escaping, I suppose, a southern winter is not a bad thing. What can we expect there? Because we have got, I guess, a World Cup on the horizon in terms of T20s next February next February, and then we've also got an ODI World Cup further afield in 2027. So a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, look, definitely, and that's what you want as an Australian player to actually find some form leading into these 50 over tournaments, leading into guys that will play both formats or even three formats, leading into an Australian Ashes series. So, there were some guys that did some really good stuff up north. As you mentioned, I've had the pleasure to play up north on a couple of occasions, and it's nice. It's nice sometimes to get away from the big stadiums. Like as much as I love the Sydney Cricket Ground, the Melbourne Cricket Ground, Adelaide Oval, they're all beautiful venues, and I'm sorry for the ones I've missed out. But to get up north and to play in a more country environment where we can showcase our talent, and if you speak to any former cricketer, that's a great tour. You go up there, it's a bit more relaxed. You get the local crowd to come down. You can sign the autographs. You feel like you're a lot closer to, the public. You do some fishing on the side. You might go and meet the locals, go to a nice restaurant. It's always a good trip, always a good tour. But at the end of the day, you have to play good cricket. And so I think those guys would have really enjoyed that top end tour. And now it's looking forward to these ODIs coming up against India. So this is a very, very important time, a very, very important series in the Australian calendar, not only because it's before the Australian summer officially starts in terms of the Ashes, but this is thinking about what's happening coming up. We've got World Cups next year. We've got, a changing of the guard that's going to happen in the next maybe 12, 18 months without, putting anyone in the firing line. You have to look at the Australian bowlers that are out there now, and they will go out on their own terms, and they've actually earned that right, and so they should. But they can't play forever. So you think about, Stephen Smith in terms of the batters. You think about Stark, Hazelwood, Cummins, Nathan Lyon. They're not going to play forever. So if you're a young guy doing well, the top end tour, 50 over cricket, get yourself in the test squad as well. There's a really good opportunity. So there's a lot that lies on this 50 over tournament against India as well.
Just on fishing, I can tell you that Mitch Marsh, having a chat to him, he took Tim David out. He said Tim David can go about as well as he can bat, which is a fairly high praise. Less complimentary about a couple of the other Aussies, but that's some seasickness suggestions and not necessarily knowing which end of a rod to hold is one of the
we definitely
points.
are a rare breeder, us fishermen. I love it. I know that I've been trying to get out with Mitchell Marsh now for a number of years, but maybe over the summer we can get out and catch some fish. But look, it just takes your mind off cricket, whether it's music, whether it's going to watch a movie somewhere. People sometimes love to have a fish, but hasn't hurt Mitchell Marsh's stats recently anyway.
And you said about Mitchell, like you talked about some of the bowlers. Mitchell Starc, recently
Mm.
announcing his retirement from the T20 scene to, with a view to the the T20 World Cup
Yeah,
coming
yeah, yeah.
up. Glenn Maxwell's pulled out of the, he's announced his retirement a bit earlier in terms of ODIs. But on Starc pulling out, it's a fairly selfless thing because he could well go to another World Cup and prove the difference. But it does give a couple of the other bowlers a chance to shine. I had a chat to Xavier Bartlett. I spoke
Mm.
to Nathan Ellison. They're both very much aware that this India
Yep.
series could be the make or break for them in terms of what's ahead. It could be the difference to a World Cup if for those two and for others that are vying for a World Cup selection.
Yeah, look, and definitely those names you mentioned, Xavier Bartlett, Nathan Ellis, you throw in Spencer Johnson, you throw in Jai Richardson in all three formats. So if I'm a Nathan Ellis, there's no reason why that guy can't play Test cricket. And sometimes people get unfairly pigeonholed to be a one-day specialist, a T20 specialist, because he's got a great slow ball. It doesn't mean that you can only play T20 cricket. So if I'm a Bartlett, if I'm a Nathan Ellis, if I'm a Spencer Johnson, I'd be making sure that I'm practicing and executing all my plans in all three formats, because if you get that opportunity, you get yourself into a T20 squad, a 50-over squad, an Australian Test squad. You can hang on there and have a nice career, because as I mentioned, there's going to be a heap of gaps that are going to open up in the next couple of years.
We've talked about I suppose, the hors d'oeuvres. Time for the main course, the Ashes. And
Oh
there's
yeah.
been some big news in terms of, I suppose, in the last week. Pat Cummins will miss those white ball series. I suppose, a bit of flare up in the back. On the other side of the world, we had Ben Stokes missing that final test of that thrilling series between India and England. He's in rehab, getting himself ready. Are we concerned at all about Cummins? What happens there? Do you think it's clearly a wise move in terms of giving him the time to get right, because this is the main fair for the summer? But what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, look, if he's feeling discomfort and he's got some issues and some stress related issues in the lower back, and I actually know personally that going through two major back issues. I think one when I was 17, one again when I was about 24. The thing I am surprised about that it's come later in his career. Most bowlers, when they get to the age of 27, their body's quite hardened, and they're like seasoned. That's probably the best way to explain it. So, you'll pick up more soft muscle tear injuries as opposed to structural issues, unless it's a force issue with slamming down your ankle like I did. You might argue as well that slamming down your front foot, all that pressure gets dispelled elsewhere, which it does to the lower back. With Pat Cummins, he's obviously felt some discomfort down there. There's some issues. He's looking now to focus on the Test matches, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's no point coming back too early, playing the one days and not be ready for the Test matches. So I just really hope Pat Cummins gives himself the amount of time to be 100% raring to go. And what I've been saying in the last 24, 48 hours is that if he's not ready first test, not 100%, leave him until the second test. If he's not ready second test, leave him until the third. If he's ready to go first test, 100% charge in. What you don't want to do is go in 90% first test, get injured, maybe in the first innings, the second innings, you're down a bowler, and then you've lost the whole Australian summer. You've lost the captain, you've lost your strike bowler. So time is of essence here. You've got to make sure that he gives himself every opportunity. And Pat Cummins is a smart guy. It's not his first Mango season. He's been around the bush a long time now, and he'll sort of make sure he makes that right call.
I guess we've also seen Josh Hazlewood. Last summer he missed a test with a calf issue. Scott Boland
Yep.
has been the premier reserve. Mitch Starc just keeps trucking on, but Scott Boland is clearly there as the stand-in for one of the fast bowlers. But having canvassed your eyes, I suppose, further afield the last couple of years, who would be the next cab off the rank? Is it Fergus O'Neill, who had that great sort of Shield season for Victoria and has had a couple of great seasons in domestic cricket? You look at Doggett, who obviously has travelled with the squad. Sean Abbott has been a regular sort of touring squad member. Who are you looking at in terms of possible, and fingers crossed, touching wood over here, but replacements needs be?
Well, all those names you mentioned, Doggett, and that was because he wasn't even on my radar, but he's been a guy that's been around a long time now and has always been, there and thereabouts. Abbott, who's been around the squad a lot. Spencer Johnson, as I mentioned before. Guys like a Nathan Ellis. Jai Richardson, who has done very well. I mean, he's almost like a pink ball specialist as well. So pending fitness, Australia have got probably 4 or 5 guys that can lean on. Of course, Scott Boland is the next cab off the rank. And it's funny that when we, either as a journalist or as a broadcaster, say that he's the replacement, which essentially he is, he would be in any team across the world, probably in any format, to be truthful, would be in the starting 11. But unfortunately, a bit like McGill, the Warne era, he was probably born in the wrong era. And you can't go away from Stark, Hazelwood, Cummins. They are first picked. Boland will definitely be the next cab off the rank. And then if one of the other bowlers go down, then those names that I mentioned will have to ensure that, firstly, that they're fully fit, and secondly, that they're raring to go. So, like I've always said, my advice to any young first-class cricketer, if you're out there, work on your skills, work on making sure that you're not just a fast bowler. Work on having a really good work ethic, whether it's working on your lower batting, working on your fielding, and just having that X factor about you, because you just might get that call up. And if you get yourself an opportunity around the test squad, those options are definitely there.
It feels like Groundhog Day. This time 12 months ago, we were pondering who would be in the Australian top order. 12 months on, we're still pondering that. I did chat briefly to both Sam Constas and to Marnus Labuschagne last week for broadcast. So those interviews will be coming at some stage in the next few months. Marnus was talking about trying to take it a little lighter rather than being so dedicated and trying to do everything right. He was trying to find a way to free himself. Did take hat trick in domestic cricket. I noticed the other night in Brisbane, so that's got to be a good boost for the confidence. But how do you see it? What unfolds? Is it someone like a Witherald? Is it a Jason Singer who obviously had a great sort of domestic season? Who comes into this team and bats alongside Usman Khawaja at the top?
Well, firstly on the last they mentioned, Jason Singer, he's putting his hand up, isn't he? Guys that are scoring runs at the top of the order, 1, 2, 3, or even 4, could potentially have an opportunity to go up in that number 2 spot. Khawaja obviously at number 1. Sam Constance, look, if he keeps asking questions, if he keeps scoring runs, there's been a bit of conjecture around the way he was scoring runs. There's been a bit of talk. Has he got the right technique to play Test cricket? I actually think he has, and I'm actually a big fan of Sam Constance. I think he's got a lot to offer the Australian cricket team. And look, he was only young when he first came in. I know it's 12 months down the track, but if you look back to that hype that happened at Boxing Day, people are still talking about it, and that's what you want. You want young, exciting players that change the game, that stand up and say, "I actually want to be counted." He single-handedly won that Test match. He put Bumrah off kilter. Bumrah didn't know what to do. To think that he was going down and lapping him and doing the reverse lap, it's exciting cricket. So thanks to Sam Constance and taking down Jasper Bumrah, he actually won Australia the Test. Does that make him going to be in the Test team for the next 10 years? Probably not. But what it does do, it shows me that he's not overawed by the situation. So if he can just refine his skills, keep scoring runs, keep scoring proper runs through, cover drives and pull shots, and not trying to be too funky all the time, and he knows that, then I'd be going with him, because it's exciting, to have a player like Usman Khawaja, who is world class, that can graft his innings, can bat the long hours to score his big hundreds, and then you got a guy that can dominate from the other end and put the pressure back, a bit like Bazball. It could be Bazball, upon himself. So I'd be going with like Sam Constance, definitely.
Well, I was going to ask you about Bazball. It does seem to polarise the cricket world, but clearly it's prompted an amazing amount of discussion over the last 3 or so years. The McCullum Stokes reign in charge of English cricket in red ball. We know now that Baz has got the white ball teams as well. Your thoughts? Where does it sit, and will it work down under?
Well, look, Bazball, for those that don't know it, it's pretty much allowing the player absolute freedom. That's all it is. It's saying You go out there and express, yourself as an athlete, as a batsman, to take on the bowler. If you feel like hitting the bowler for six first ball, if that's your best option, go out and do it. What it isn't doing is going out and saying slog every single ball. There's a difference, and I think where people get mixed up between baseball and not proper batting, and sometimes it is a very blurred line, and we have seen some poor shots from England when they've been five down, and you've also got to think, okay, maybe now's not the right time to go all out attack. Maybe we have to look at the other options. So that's one thing that they're trying to work through. But I like their style of cricket. It's exciting. It's got a lot of people talking. You're getting bums on seats. People coming to watch Zach Crawley come out, or Ollie Pope or Harry Brook go and smoke the first ball for 4 or 6 in their innings. It's exciting cricket. What I will say, though, that if it doesn't work the first or second test, if they commit the baseball, England, and it doesn't work and they get rissoled and they're all out for 200 odd, playing aggressive strokes, what happens then? Do they go into their shell or do they continue to do it? I think they have to go, if they commit to baseball, they have to play 10 innings of baseball throughout the summer, which could cost them. It actually may also win them an Ashes series as well. So, but it's going to be exciting cricket. Put it that way.
Yeah, cannot wait for what's ahead. And that first test, November 21, I think it is, in Perth, and it should be a wonderful one. One last one, and thanks again for joining us on the follow-on, Brett. You talked about getting rissoled. Now, we had a wonder from further down under in terms of Tasmania, the Apple Isle last year. Bo Webster, slug from Snug, really excelled. Wonderful effort at the SCG and continued to show his worth. Almost fell off my chair when I saw some 11s being noted earlier, through August, the speculation building up to the Ashes that there was no place for Webster in the team. With a couple of questions about some of those bowlers, surely Bo gets another run around, doesn't he?
Well, look, it's a tough one, isn't it? I would love to have Bo Webster in any team. I would even have Bo Webster potentially at the top of the order. But unfortunately, there's only 11 players that can play on the field. And everyone, we all do it. I keep saying, broadcasters, journalists, we all pick our 11, or this guy should be in, that guy should be in, he should be in. And then we've got to sit back and go, well, who's actually out? We can't pick. We've picked 16 players and you can only play 11. That's a great thing about cricket, is that you've only got 11 players that can play the game. But just on Bo Webster, you have to look at what can a player offer. Very, very aggressive with the bat. He reminds me a lot of a Kevin Peterson, a bit of a Zach Crawley, sort of, tall, the enforcer, long stride, Matty Hayden-like, I think, without being, too similar, obviously right hand, left hand type of thing, but, just the presence, the long levers. So definitely with the bat can take any attack apart. You bowl short to him, you get punished, you pitch the ball up, you get driven down the ground. And because he's so tall, the room for error as a fast bowler is a lot greater when you're bowling to a guy that's got, long levers. He's got a long stride down the wicket. And then you throw the ball to him and he can take wickets and bowl decent pace outswingers at, 6'7" or whatever he is. He's massive. So, yes, I would love to see him also in the squad. I don't know how he fits in the team. I'm not sure how he doesn't fit in the team. He's got to definitely be in the squad.
Well, look, Brett, it should be an amazing summer to come. We kick off with the Asia Cup live on KO Sports every game later this week. That big one on September 15 over here, September 14 over where you are, I think, Pakistan versus India. Thanks so much, as always, for joining the Follow On Cricket podcast and looking forward to the summer ahead.
Thanks, Courtney. Always good to chat, mate.